Okay. So, so today's session, first of all, we will talk about our lovely sponsors here. Everything is possible without, or nothing is, this event wouldn't have been possible without them, especially during the virtual time. Assuming a lot of sponsors are looking for a lot of local events, but definitely not happening at this point. So kudos to them. So today's session will be on Power Automate error handling. It is, you will be able to use it for logic apps as well. I'm actually, if I go to the next slide here, about me, I do have a logic app symbol up there in the corner because I actually work in Azure most of my time at work. So I'm an integration developer. I work at an energy company in Canada, Alberta, and mainly I do work in Azure, Logic Apps, Service Bus, all the integration type stuff. I'm a Microsoft MVP in business applications. I have earned the Flownaut rank in the community forums. So I'm a Power Automate super user. So if you have any questions or you need some advice, or maybe you have an error and you don't know how to get past it, the community forum is probably the best place to go. So many users on there, so many super users, and even regular users, everyone helping each other. It's really awesome. You can scan that QR code right there. That is, will bring you to a link. It's actually Linktree, and the link is down below there. That'll basically have all my social media links, like my LinkedIn, Twitter, my blog, and I'm pretty active on all of those. So we will go to the next page here. So a little bit about me. I just wanted to put a little bit of personal stuff in there. So I have ADHD. I don't know if it'll come through or not, but basically I try to tell my stories like a normal person, like above at the top there. My wife tells me usually I'm below that. I'm in the one that says ADHD storytelling. I'm not going to try to do that today, though. I'm going to try to stick to the top one. It's a lot better. Cryptocurrencies. So I actually invested in Bitcoin a while back when it was like only $3,000. I didn't get that many Bitcoins. I wish I did at this point. I think Bitcoin's at it's like over like 30 grand or something per Bitcoin now. I do have a lot of altcoins. Those are like the smaller ones. If you really want to check a cool one out and you're into crypto, go to Seek VR. That's a pretty cool one. I am really into space. I love space documentaries. Recently got a telescope, so that's very awesome. And gaming. So gaming, I actually used to game all the time, play like 36 hours straight on the weekends with all my friends. Had the Xbox One X, the Project Scorpio edition. So I stood in line to get that because it's a special edition type Xbox. I actually recently sold it because now I have a family. Now I have a child, and now my friends, we don't really talk that much anymore. So good story, but sad ending. That's okay though. So the agenda for today, basically, what is error handling? And we'll talk about try catch what. It's actually try catch finally. It's a programming term, but we're gonna enable it in or use it in Power Automate or Flow. And then we're gonna kind of go over how to use it and like the structure of the flow, how we're gonna do that, and then we'll look at the demos and then Q&A. So the first one, what is error handling? So error handling, I like to treat errors like I do Pokemon, so I gotta catch them all. So basically what we can do is you can acknowledge the error, and you don't want to think that your flow will never fail, because it most likely will. Even if you don't know what the errors are going to be, you still want to acknowledge them in some way. So you want to build your logic around that there could potentially be an error. So the logic to deal with the error, that's going to be you can log the error in like and maybe you want to send off an email, or maybe you want to log it in SharePoint or a data source at some point. Basically, you just want to log it somewhere. So then if you even if you have a support team, then they can go in there kind of like a knowledge base and kind of look it up. And then a lot of people forget about this. They kind of implement the try catch and they forget about the finally, because most times you want to gracefully finish the run. So what that means is that if I just build a flow right now and my flow fails in like an apply to each loop, for example, when it fails and I have stuff outside of that loop, it will not execute. It'll just skip and say the previous action was not satisfied or whatever. So basically what you want to do is you want to be able to gracefully finish the run if that's what you want to do. If you have stuff that you want to run after, even if there's a failure, then you're going to want to gracefully finish that in some way. Also, when a flow fails, it shows up as failed. Now maybe there's like in the run history, and excuse me, maybe there's ways, or maybe there's examples that you want to actually have like it show as successful, because maybe the error is known. Maybe it's not actually an error, even though it shows up as an error. Maybe you want to gracefully flip that to like succeed or something. So try catch finally. So all that sounds great. Now, how do we implement this inside of Flow? So again, I come from a developer background. So to be completely honest, I thought try catch finally wasn't really useful in Power Automate or Flow at the time. Even Logic Apps, I was like, it's low code, no code. Why do I need to implement something that's kind of from like a coding structure? So I was completely wrong about that. And to showcase that, I do have like a few examples. And now every single Logic app or every flow that I build, I am definitely implementing some type of error handling. Now, I can't see the chat right now. I will be able to see it after. But if you guys, everyone in the chat, if you build flows or Logic apps, how many of you, and you can even type in the chat, how many of you like actually implement error handling, or is it something that you guys just totally error handling? You know, if it fails, I'll figure it out later. Or maybe you're using something else other than try catch finally, and I'd love to hear about that as well. Because again, in this low code, no code space, there's so many different ways to come up with the same type of outcome, and it's great to hear everyone's opinion on that. So again, try catch finally. So what is it really? So basically, excuse me, you want to try. So this is kind of like the initial step. So again, if you don't implement any error handling whatsoever in your flows right now, choking on my water. Okay, so if you build a flow right now and you have no error handling, that's technically your try, because that's the stuff that you want to basically run every single time the flow runs or the logic runs. Now, when there's an error, you want to catch that error, and that's kind of what the catch block does. And it just disappeared. Oh, that's weird. Okay, so basically, I don't know why I did that, but so I can just say it. So catch, you just want to catch the error. So if I'm and I have actually an analogy on the other page, it'll be a way to be able to understand it a lot better. But basically, catch, you want to catch that error. So, and there doesn't have to be an error. So if you're trying something, maybe there's an error, maybe there's not. If there is, you're catching it. And then if there's not, you're not going to catch anything. But then no matter what, you're going to want to implement, or you're going to want to run the finally block. And that's going to basically, so after you catch the error, if there is an error, you're going to do something after. You may want to do something after with the error. Maybe you just want to do something after regardless. And then even if you don't find an error, you still want to do finally. And I'll kind of showcase that here in the next example. So the example here is going to be, my vacation starts today. This is totally false, and you'll see definitely why it's false. But I'm going to go to a beach island. So that's technically really false right now in this times. So beach island. So basically what I want to do is I'm going to try driving on my, to get to my beach vacation. I'm going to use my awesome truck there to do that. So I'm driving to my beach vacation, to the beach, and this is what I'm trying to do. Now something catches me off guard, and I get an error happens. Technically, a police officer pulls me over. Now I have no idea why he's pulling me over. Maybe he's pulling me over because I have no mirrors on the side, like no side mirrors. Maybe I have no license plate. Maybe I'm just going too fast. Regardless of what it is, it could be a flat tire, it could be a broken down car. No matter what it is, something happened and I'm now stranded or not going to my destination. I'm stuck. So that's an error. Now, after the error happens, you're going to want to do something. You don't want to just sit in the middle of the road. You want to get to that beach vacation. So that's where the finally comes in. So finally, no matter what happens, maybe the cop pulls me over. I get a ticket. Okay, he says goodbye. I get my ticket. I drive off. Even if he pulls me to jail, there's definitely gonna be a finally after that, no matter what. So I'm gonna either get out of jail and then go to my vacation, or maybe I won't even get to my vacation at all. Maybe my finally will be go back home and be very sad about that. But regardless, there's gonna be a finally. I'm not just gonna sit in the middle of the road after. So it's a way to put it there. So why should we use it? So, excuse me. Basically, all flows fail, like I said before. Even if your flow is so flawless, there could be something in the background that happens. Maybe Microsoft does an update on their API of that connector, and the other connectors don't like that. Could be a failure. Who knows? It's happened to me once, so I'm not going to say it won't happen. And once your flow does fail, you'll kind of understand, okay, you know how to throw exceptions meaning errors. So you just need to know how to handle them. Now, you may not know the exact error, but you're going to want to know, basically how to handle any type of error. And then you can go in after and kind of figure out how to fix it. So you don't want to be left in the dust, and this next page will definitely get you understanding that. So if you guys have seen this email before come to your inbox, let me know in the chat, because I have, and I still continue to see it. And I was helping someone on the community forums the other day, and I was trying a bunch of stuff because the XL connector just got updated actually in Power Automate. So I had my flow template that I built and put on the community forum. And now it was failing, and I was helping him figure out why it was failing. Now, as I was triggering it a bunch of times, it was failing. And about maybe like 4 days later, I get an email from Microsoft here from Microsoft Flow saying my flow has failed. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, but that's 4 days later. If there was no if I didn't have any error handling, or if I didn't even know about this flow, maybe it was a scheduled flow, there'd be no way of me knowing that it's failed until I get this email. Also, another thing is I believe this email only gets sent to the flow owners, like the original owners. I do not know if it gets sent to the co-owners. So that's another kind of downfall of that. Maybe Microsoft will make this email a lot better. Who knows? I will not rely on it. I hope you guys don't rely on it, because it can put you in a lot of hot water there. So also why is because you can send alerts to better support your failures. Maybe you're sending it to another team, like I said before. You're going to save money because now you're not spending time and effort going in to see why things are failing, or if things are failing. You can kind of rely on your own system to send you an email or alert or anything like that to actually let you know that there's a failure. And then if you're building these things for stakeholders, the less they have to get in touch with you because something's wrong, the better, and the happier they will be. And when they're happy, everybody should be happy. And the other great reason is because if you're doing something, especially if you're not used to a certain process and you're building it, you're gonna want to, and you might not know what the errors are. You're gonna want to go and basically, let's say if it does fail, you'll kind of, it's gonna fail, because you have no idea why it's gonna fail. But if it fails for a certain reason, you can be like, wow, okay, when the data comes in like that, this connector or this other action does not like that. So that's why it fails. Maybe there's an apostrophe in there. Maybe there's a single quote somewhere. Then you can kind of work from there. And that's kind of what I've learned. So now over the time of me using all this technologies, I've kind of learned the errors that might happen and the errors that will happen for sure. And most of it comes from data quality and other systems, but again, they're all errors. So the structure. So basically, we're going to be using scopes. Scopes are in Logic Apps and Power Automate. So we're going to use scopes, and scopes are going to allow us to put actions inside of those scopes. And it's a very great action. Even if you're not using try-catch finally, you can group other actions together, and it actually makes things a lot easier to read. And especially if another team is supporting the flow, it allows them to basically not have to worry about so much stuff. Like if you had error handling and you weren't implementing it in scopes, it'd be so messy you wouldn't even know what's going on. Also, the reason why we use scopes is because we use the option in the connector settings called the configure run after. what that does, it allows us to, it basically allows us to only run that, like, so for example, in the one example here, it says catch, the catch block. We only want the catch block to run if the try block has failed, skipped, or timed out. Now, the only reason why those are gonna happen is because there's probably a failure. So there's a failure happening in that try. Catch will run. If it's successful, if try is successful, catch won't run. It'll just skip because it does not run if it's successful. And that's what that checkbox there is. And then finally, again, with finally, you want to run it all the time, no matter what. So that's why all the boxes are checked. Now, when you put this in a scope, it just makes things a lot easier to control. So now it's the fun demo time. So let's get into the demo. Now I should be able to see the chat if there is any questions. So yeah. So we'll just go ahead with the demo. So the first demo here is I want to, so try catch finally. I'm just gonna edit this. It's nothing. I'm gonna delete this actually. Well, I won't delete it, but actually, yeah, I will. So basically, brand new flow. I want to put some error handling in here. So what I do is a new step. And then you can either click control here. It's actually in the control options, and then scope is right there. Now, I always like to rename it. So I'm gonna name this try. And then there's two ways you can do it. I know Logic Apps can't do this, but Logic Apps has a better feature with other things. So I can copy that. Now, if I go new step, I can just go my clipboard and implement that. Obviously, change the name though. Don't want try to. I want catch. And then the final one, I'll just click here. It's actually faster with this one. And this one's going to be finally. So now, again, so the try, you don't want to touch the try with the configuration, but with the catch, you want to click the three dots. The three dots will bring up the menu here, configure run after. So this is where we're going to implement when it runs. So by default, it's going to run if try is successful. We want to uncheck that. We have to have at least one check. So we're going to know has failed, has skipped, or timed out. Now, we know it's set because that red line and that little icon there, basically saying that it's set. Now, if I move these actions all over the place, it's going to break this connection. I'm going to have to redo it. That's why scopes are amazing for that, because sometimes you're moving actions a lot in these flows. So for finally, you want to click three dots, configure run after, and you want to check mark all of them. And that will make it so finally runs no matter what. So now just to test this, I do want to show one little quick thing. Basically, it's a cool way to trigger an error. And people who use Logic Apps, you'll probably love this as well, because I use this all the time in Logic Apps because I don't know why. I use it way more in Logic Apps than I do in Flow. But so there is this connector here called terminate. And what terminate does, it's great. Terminate's awesome. It basically terminates the flow. But the problem is, let's say if I save this and I run this, I'm going to run it manually. So flow run failed. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Flow runs failed. But my catch and my finally did not run. And that's because terminate literally terminates the flow. It fails it, but it terminates it, stops processing immediately. So it's great for that if you want to stop processing immediately. But if you want to continue on, and there's a reason why you're using that terminate, but you want to continue on, you can't. So a way to get past that is that if I create a variable, so I need to set my variable first. I'm just going to name it error. And I actually did it wrong. I'm supposed to set it. I'm supposed to initialize the variable first. initialize variable. So I'll name this initialize variable error, and then I'll give it a name of force error, and I will make it a integer, and then leave the value blank. The set variable, I'm just gonna, I'll drag it into my try here, and then I'll get rid of my terminate. Because now we're gonna test the to see if the error. I'm gonna force the error. So the way we're gonna do that is that we're gonna use an expression. It's not complicated. Don't worry. It's just a little quick expression called. Well, I'm gonna use true just to make it kind of more understandable to a user that goes in here and looks at it. So basically, I'm forcing an error true. So now, if I save this, and the reason why it's gonna force an error is because I'm basically setting a value of true, which is a Boolean value, to a integer. So that's going to cause an error. So if I run that, and then so now everything runs how it's built for. So again, I'm getting that error. It's just basically saying it doesn't support that type. And then in the scope, there's nothing in the scope. I can't open it, but you can see it did run, and then the finally did run. So if you do need to trigger an error for any reason but continue on processing, it's a perfect way to do it right there. Now, I am going to switch gears and go to the reason, or not the reason, but a real use case that happened to me, and we're going to put error handling on top of that, because maybe you're using, like maybe you're building a new flow and you want to add error handling right at the beginning, and that's probably the easiest way, because you can build it, like you can see right there, you can build it with try catch finally so quickly. But sometimes it's not all the case. Maybe you guys are so passionate about this talk that you're like, okay, I'm gonna go put so much error handling in everything and everything that's already built, everything like that. So how would you do that? So basically, I want to show, if I go to this tab over here. So actually, well, yeah, so this is the flow. I'll walk through the flow. So I have, it failed. Well, this is that's fine. So basically, this flow is, I'm gonna have, this is a real use case that I actually had to do at my work. So what happened was that we had, Power Platform was still so new in our organization that not many people had access to our dev environments or test environments in CD, or not CDS, but the Power Apps basically. And what had happened is that these stakeholders were like, okay, you guys built all these apps for us, but we have no way of giving access to any new people that come in, and they were hiring people like crazy. So basically, one of us was tasked to constantly give them access to the environment and to their app and everything like that. So what I did was I actually created this amazing flow that at the time it was amazing. Is that I'm just basically I gave the stakeholders this form here. So what had happened is that this flow, all it's asking for is email addresses of users, and it's separated by a semicolon. So if they have like 5 new hires, they can put five of their emails in there and hit submit. What it would do is it would go in the background here. If I go back to the flow, it's going to get that user details, and it's going to split. If I open this up, I will take it out of here. I'll put it in the comments so it's easy to read. So except for that weird string right there. But so basically, I'm just splitting the response, the question. That's the question. It shows up very strange there. But I'm basically just splitting this field here. So if they put in like, I'll just give an example for this one here. It's basically just splitting up this string here. So that's what it's going to be doing. Now, if I submit this, I'll just show here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, so for every email address, I'm going to apply to each. So basically every split, because I'm splitting it. So now this returns, I'm using the outputs of the compose here. So that's going to split each email address into its own little value. It turns into an array basically. So what happens is that I'm going to grab that array value, the current item, which is the single email address, and I'm going to basically get the user profile for Office 365. What that's going to allow me to do is then I'm going to get their actual UPN, because sometimes maybe the user doesn't exist. Maybe maybe it's a typo or something. So I kind of wanted to make sure that I'm getting the real value from Office 365. So that's what's happening there. And then I'm just adding them to that group. Now this group this is an Azure Active Directory group. This can be tied to security roles. It can be tied to the environment access. You can even add licensing on this Active Directory group. So then everybody in that group gets let's say a P1 or P2 license. So at the time, this is kind of what it was doing. It was giving them licenses. It was adding them to the environment. And there's also, I believe there's a security role attached to it as well. I don't remember that part, but there were so many things attached to it. So this group is very, it had a lot of functionality. And then at the very end, I'm just sending an email saying, hey, whoever filled out the form, all these email addresses that you provided have been added. So that's great. So if I, no, not there. So if I go and submit this form, I'm going to submit it. Go back to the flow here. Let's go back. I don't need to save it. All I did was change the comment. So it's running right now. So that's good. The flow has failed. Oh, uh-oh. So looks like it failed. Actually a good thing though. So it failed on this one. It's saying, let's see, it says user not found. Okay. And the next one, oh, this user also not found. But then the next one, next person, this person, okay, he did get added. Okay. So yeah, just to confirm that, if I go into the group here, refresh. So it's only me and Alex now. So what happened to the other users? Obviously, they couldn't get added because they're not part of the Office 365. They're not part of the Active Directory, whatever. So the weird thing is that, let's say if the business user fills this out, he's never going to get this email. This action here, yeah. So basically it skipped because the action above failed, and it won't run. So yeah, so this is what was happening. They were sending so many alerts here, and I don't know where they're keeping their data, but basically what was happening is that there was a lot of users that either had typos or maybe they didn't even exist in our tenant yet. And what was happening is there was a lot of failures, and at the very end, we had no idea. Probably after maybe a week or even 2 weeks, we had no idea who has been added. Well, we knew who was added, but we didn't know who wasn't added. So it was kind of like a manual process to kind of check, okay, is this user added? No. This user added? No. Okay. So it became a very tedious process. So basically, to add error handling on here, very, very simple. What we can do, again, we're just going to use try catch finally, very simple. But since I'm sending an email saying, hey, these users are added, I want to send two different emails. I want to send an email for all the valid emails and all the invalid emails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two variables. This is something that maybe you'll have to think of beforehand. But basically, I'm going to need two variables, one for invalid, one for valid. And they're going to be arrays because I want to basically put all the emails into the ones that failed, I want to put them into the failed array. The ones that succeeded, I want to put in the valid array. So I'm going to need two variables. So if I initialize a variable, copy to clipboard because it's easier that way. I'm going to change the name here. Initialize variable, valid. Let's put valid in here. I'll change it to an array. And one more time. Copied it my clipboard though, so I can easily get to it that way. I'm going to change the name of it right now to invalid. Then same thing with the name here, invalid. Need that array. Awesome. Now I have two variables to use. So now I'm going to go in the middle here. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to build your try. So I'm going to have to put a scope in here. There's a scope there. This is going to be my try. So I'm going to name it try. And I'm going to basically want to put almost everything in here at the beginning because this is what I want to try. Technically though, yeah, I'm gonna leave the email out though, because email, I want that to happen very last, regardless if there's failures or not. So that's definitely gonna be in a finally. I'll put that in later. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through here. So I'm still wanna do the same things here. I wanna split the email address, and then I want to grab the user. Now this is the part that fails if they don't exist, right? So what we can do here is I don't want to add a member that fails, but I also want to capture that data. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually use a parallel branch here. So this is going to allow me to do is I'm going to put my my catch actually right here. So again, you don't have to follow, try the top, middle, and at the very end. You can put it anywhere you like. As long as it works for your business process, it's perfect. So this is gonna be my my catch. So I'm gonna catch here. This is where I'm gonna catch the error. Now you can have multiple catches and all in different places, especially because Power Automate and Logic Apps, they kind of work that way where you can't really go above and then back around. You have to it kind of goes down. So you can have multiple catches. You can even name it like scope catch, invalid emails. You can, if you have another error that you're finding later and it can't be implemented in the same catch, you can just add another catch. As long as it's in as long as you can make it run. Well, in this case, my try will fail if there's my try will fail if there's a catch, but my finally is always going to run. So again, it's going to work perfectly. So what I'm going to do here, so basically if this, now right now I did not configure any configure run after, so I need to do that. So configure run after, that's the main point. You do not want to forget that. So I do not want to run that if it's successful. I don't want to run if it's failed, succeeded, or sorry, failed, skipped, or timed out. So then I'm going to hit done on that. So basically over here is I'm adding the number to the group. Now I also want to capture, I'm going to do this side first. I want to capture everything that goes over here is going to be successful. But everything goes over here is going to be failed. So I can actually use my a set variable in here. And I'm going to set my valid email. So I'll just name this to valid. So I'm going to basically, I actually messed up. I don't want set. I want to append it. It's an array. If it wasn't an array, set would work, but it's an array. So actually, it's a good thing I got that. So what I want to do is I want to append, which means add to an array variable. So because this is in a loop, so if there's two failed emails, they'll just add to that one array, and then you'll be able to use the array outside of the loop, which is perfect. So let's try this again. So this is going to be valid emails. I'll put. So now I want to put valid, and then this part might be confusing. What do I put in here? You just want to put the current item, and that's going to be the email address that the loop is currently in. So if the loop is currently in that one email and it goes in the add member, that means it's a valid email. So append it. Now over here in the catch, I want to kind of do almost the same thing, but I'm actually just gonna I'm gonna append it, but I'm not going to append it to the valid email. I'm actually going, it's too broad of a search there. I'm gonna append it to the invalid emails. So I'll change the name of up here first. So changing your names are definitely you should always change names first, because if you don't change names and you do some stuff underneath and then you go back to change names, Flow doesn't like that. I don't think Logic Apps doesn't like that either. So now again, easy. I just want to use the current item, and that is going to basically put us right there. Now, if something's failed, it's going to go here and it's going to it's going to append the invalid email, and then if it's good, it's going to put the valid email. Now, that's technically all I really need in there. So I'm going to close that, and then at the very end, outside of the loop, this is going to be my finally. So I'm going to need another scope. So my finally So my finally, what I'm going to put in here, I'm going to drag my email in here. Now, there's a lot, you can actually do this with one email and actually send and have it only show up with certain values if the invalid one is empty and stuff, but it's really confusing to do in, low code, no code. So we're going to make it, basically, I'm going to send two different emails. If it's failed, or sorry, if there's invalid emails, send an email. If there's valid emails, send an email. So I'm going to need two email actions. I am a little worried about copying it, so I'm just going to create a new one. Sometimes it doesn't work, so I don't want to risk that on here during a demo. So I'm going to send two different emails, and I'll put users. The other one's called users added. I'll just put this one users not added. Make it really descriptive here. So no dynamic content showing up. I can just use the arrows over here. Switch to basic mode apparently, and then yeah. So responders email. That's whoever filled out the form. That's who I want to send the email to. Subject. If I go up here, what's the subject here? Users added. I want to make it the same. So I'm going to put users not added. So then it looks kind of generalized. Obviously, make this look a lot better, but for this demo, it's going to be very simple. So I'm just going to copy that, and I will paste it over here. So now everything is good. I'm just going to change the importance to high so I get the email right away. So now, obviously, I don't want to run these after another because that wouldn't make any sense. So what do I need to do? So I need to actually check to see if there's any. First I'll do valid. First I'll do users added. So I love Power Automate for this way. I can just drag things around all which way you want. I'm going to use a compose. Composes are awesome. I love composes. You can put anything in there. You can do expressions in there. You can put any type of value in there. It doesn't matter. So anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to just check. We're going to use an expression right here, and we're going to check the length. Very simple expression. We're just going to check the length of the array valid. So I'm going to check the length there, and that's again I want to change the name, compose length valid. Okay, and then I want to drag the email underneath that, and again I want to do the exact same thing but for invalid. Change the name here, length invalid. And then I want to use the same expression, but I want to put the invalid array instead. So length, scroll down here, length, and then invalid. Okay, so now that's going to get the length of the array. So now all I really need to do now is add an action here, and I'm just going to put a. So actually, what I'm going to do, make it a little bit more faster. I'm going to add a parallel branch. Now, why am I doing this? Because I'm going to have my condition, and this is going to be. I'm going to make this condition if valid emails. So, and then I'm going to put on this side another condition. And then if invalid emails. So now users added, this will go over here. And then users not added will stay over here. So I'm going to put that right here. So now it's basically, all I have to do now is very simple. I just have to put the invalid compose if that is greater than 0. So now if there's any invalid emails, it's going to send this email. And I have to do the same thing over here. So except for I want to use the valid compose. And that is greater than 0. And then I want to drag that in there. So now I'm going to save that. So now hopefully, fingers crossed, this will all work. So let's test it out. So now I'm just going to actually hit manually I'm gonna test it. So now I'm gonna go to my Visual Studio here. I have a second bunch of emails I want to test here. There are a few, there's that spam.account that's in there. That should trigger an error because that account doesn't exist. So if I go back to my form here and paste this in, hey, fingers crossed, here we go. Is it gonna work as expected? And I have my email open up on another screen here. I'm gonna make sure I get my emails properly. So it looks like something happened in here. Oh, I forgot to change my finally. So this is what happened. So finally here, it needs to be configured to run no matter what. Now, very simple fix. I'm just gonna to prove that it does work. I'll refresh this because I know the members got added. I'm just gonna remove them. There we go. And then if I go back to my flow here, and then if I test it, I can actually choose the recently one, which is the 53 seconds ago. Same test, same data, so it'll give us the result that we're looking for. There we go. I got some pings in the background of my headset here. Just gonna open up my 2 emails and show you guys. So here's my other one email of the users not added. So there it is right there. These emails do not exist. This one here looks almost correct, but oh, and I forgot to change the string at the end there, but that's okay. And then where's the other one? And then here's the other one right here. Even though, oh, I'm kind of crazy. So actually, it's funny. Anyway, you guys take my word for it here. We're running a little bit out of time, but basically, it's funny because I'm actually passing in the if I go back. Actually, I'll just fix it quickly and then I'll rerun it again. But I'm actually passing in everything from the question. I'm not passing in the variable. So yeah, it's funny too, actually, the variables don't show up here for some reason, but if I hit expressions and I type in variables, and then actually type in the name of it up here, valid, it should work. But just to show you another way to do it as well, if I just go like this, another reason why I like compose is because if I go compose and then I add valid in there, drag this underneath, I won't even worry about renaming it right now, but then I can actually even reference the variable there, even though it won't let me reference it for some reason. Very, very weird. So if I go over here and do the same thing for the invalid emails, so if I go over here, again, I'm passing in all that information. I guess that is the real struggle of adding error handling after the fact, because now you have to worry about, basically, you have to worry about messing up in that way because there's so many different things happening. So there we go. So now I can reference that variable. So compose to and have not. There we go. Save. And I just do it one more time. So only those 2 members got added. Yeah, that's fine. Remove them. And then that's good. So now if I go back, and then if I rerun this for the third time is a charm. Now everything should work. Not bad though. Some on-hand error handling right away. Okay, so I got my emails here. I'm gonna share them over. So there's the one email, and here's the second one. So that makes more sense. Users not added, that spam account. It's the only account that should not have been added. And then all the other ones here, demo user, that's the other one. Yes. Yes, that is right. Okay, so then close that, and then I do have like one more slide left. So if I go here, shift, so basically key takeaways, configure the run after. That bit me in the butt right there. That I didn't do the finally. So again, those are the three right there. Catch tells you what it is. Finally, make sure your finally is set. Terminate versus forcing an error, the two different types there. And when to use terminate. Well, you kind of use it when you like want the flow to stop everything, terminate the whole processing, and then use variables to throw the error if you want to keep the flow processing. And for example, in this case, if I didn't use it, but I guess I didn't need to because the action that I was using caused the error anyway. So that is my session, and thank you all for listening. I haven't checked the chat nearly as much as I wanted to just because of the sake of time, but thank you. I did see the chat kind of going, so thank you for everything, and I will definitely look at the chat here right now.